Hey there friends, Dave Paulides, CanAm Missing Project, copyrighted edition for our video page. Thank you for being here. And it's a little different episode. No missing people cases. If that's the only reason you're here, move along. I don't want to see any hate mail. Oh, you didn't talk about missing people. Everything I'm going to talk to you about is related to missing people, but we're not giving any new cases today. And this isn't a letters segment, so there's not going to be any hate mail about letters. There's going to be some current event articles I'm going to talk to you about. Kind of an update on our year, what's going on with our movies, etc. And I'm going to catch you up right now. So, many of you have asked, Dave, why can't I watch your movies in the United States right now? It's a very good question. So, our movies. I've done 3 Missing 411 documentaries. Missing 411, Missing 411 The Hunted, and Missing 411 The UFO Connection. Originally, 6-7 years ago, we signed with a company, good company, to distribute our films, get them online, etc. Did a great job. They ended up selling about 1.5 years ago to another company. That company made 2 payments to us. And right now, it's been 16 months. We have gotten no royalties off our movies, nothing. We are as close to folding as we've ever been in our life because of no revenue. It's killed us. And that company is called Chicken Soup for the Soul Entertainment. And there's probably close to 200 people like me who have produced movies where they've decided to keep the royalties, not abide by the contract. Now, when they bought the company that we signed with, their stock was about $23 a share. It's now under 20 cents a share. It's worthless. So any idea about suing them? Completely stupid. It would cost me $50,000 as a retainer fee and another $50,000, and I'd probably get nothing. So, about 4.5 months ago, I, contrary to every one of the other content providers, approached them and I said, hey, you owe me so much money. I will forgive all the money. You just give me the rights back to my movie. They said, sure. Well, that was 5 months ago. We get the movies back, and they were supposed to take all the movies down off the various platforms that they had them on. As of 2 weeks ago, some of my movies were still up on some of these platforms, and they were still getting the royalty, even though they signed a contract directly with me to take them down. Now, if you can tell I'm a little fired up, I'm really mad, because these people took all of our money for 16 months. Essentially, this movie right here, I've seen nothing from it. Except when you people buy the DVDs from me. We signed with a new company 4 months ago to get our movies back up on various platforms. Tubi, Amazon, etc. All of those. And they said, yeah, we'll have them up in 30 days. Well, it's now been 4 months. And internationally, our movies are up at this point in many international platforms. They haven't been up in the States and Canada in totality yet. One movie, my first movie, Missing 411, is on Amazon right now. You can buy it online through Amazon or you can watch it. And I would pray to you, even if you've seen it before, please go watch it or buy it again because it would help us. Now, I was told by Chicken Soup for the Soul Entertainment that they were, they've told me this so many times, oh yeah, we're taking it down. Yeah, we're taking it down. Yeah, we're taking it down. As long as they have the movies up, we can't put our movies up and get royalties from it because their movie is still up. Well, really my movies. And again, as I told you, they really have no assets, which is why they're taking the royalties from every other provider you can imagine out there. Dr. Stephen Greer is another one. All of his movies, they're all up and they're making revenue for Chicken Soup for the Soul Entertainment. And like I said, there's I think there's 180. But to say I'm frustrated, I've never been so mad in my life at another company that they would do this to us. And really, it was unforeseen because the company we signed for did everything for us that they were supposed to do. But when they sold to this company who just wanted to treat us wrong. I don't understand it, but it's a life lesson that I'm going to have to learn. So what has that taught us? Well, not only has it taken us to the brink, we have no money to make another movie. All the movie was, we pour all of our heart and soul into the next movie. And we take the revenues from that movie to make the next movie. Well, still, I've got nothing. Yeah, it's tough, folks. It's really tough. Now, some of you said, well, crowdfund it. Well, that's a possibility. And then that's a slippery slope. And the crowdfunding works like, let's say our movies cost anywhere between $250,000 and $350,000 to make. So let's say we go for the whole $350,000. And we don't get the whole $350,000, we don't get anything. That's the way it works. It's a very slippery slope. So we have our first movie and our third movie, The UFO Connection and Missing 411 on DVD and Blu-ray in our store right now. Our store, NA like North America, nabigfootsearch.com. Then go to the online store. And of course, Missing 411 Washington, selling good. I'm going to encourage you to go out there and get it. It comes with a driving map of the state of Washington, a full big one, and all of the locations where missing people have been documented in that state. Okay, a couple of things. A couple of important articles have come out as of late. I know I got a lot of hunters out there that watch me. I get some angry mail from them every once in a while when I talk about what I'm going to tell you right now. Now, I know if you're an outdoorsman, you know a hunter, you may be eating their food that they give you. I want you to think about this. I've talked about it before. This came out 3 days ago. Study: hunters die from consuming CWD-infected venison. Chronic wasting disease has been sweeping through North American deer herds since it was first detected at a captive cervid facility in Wyoming in '67. In all the decades since, there's been a documented and confirmed instance of the always fatal neurological disease jumping the species barrier from cervids to humans. According to a new study published last week in the journal Neurology, when you make a journal, it's fact. The journal Neurology, that long discussed and frequently dreaded transmission of CWD from hunter-infested deer to human beings might have actually occurred in 2022. The study title alone is enough to perk the ears of anyone who's followed the CWD epidemic for the years. 2 hunters from the same lodge afflicted with sporadic CJD, it reads, is chronic wasting disease to blame? The authors go on to highlight a cluster of Creutzfeldt-Jakob disease, CJD, cases after exposure to chronic wasting disease in infected deer. These findings, they say, are suggestive of potential prion transmission from CWD-infected deers to human. I started talking about this 3 years ago. Why? Because prion disease first came to our world in England when mad cow disease hit their cows, which is a prion disease. And the scientists said it would never cross from cows to human. Don't worry about it. Well, it did, and it killed tons of people. Now, scientists were saying years ago, oh, don't worry about CWD. It'll never cross from deer to human. And I said, I guarantee it's going to cross from deer to human. It's just a matter of time, and it probably already had years ago. And why is that? Because chronic wasting disease, when it comes into a human and is Creutzfeldt-Jakob disease, it has the exact same symptoms as dementia and Alzheimer's. When a dementia or Alzheimer patient is under the care of a doctor for months or whatever, and they die, there's no autopsy. The only way you can tell if it's Alzheimer's, dementia, or CJD is to do a test of the brain. And they don't do it. Many scientists who I have spoke with say, Dave, many of those deaths are CJD. They just weren't tested for. And now it's finally coming out in print. Now, why am I telling you this? Hold your taters. The recent paper describes an unnamed hunter who contracted CJD after regular consumption of venison from deer with infected CWD disease. In 2022, a 72-year-old man with a history of consuming meat from a CWD-infected deer population presented with rapid onset confusion and aggression, it reads. These are classic symptoms of CWD. Despite aggressive symptomatic treatment of seizures and agitation, the patient's condition deteriorated and he died within a month of initial presentation, the study goes on to state. The diagnosis was confirmed post-mortem as sporadic CJD. Post-mortem, after death, they tested the brain, they found it. Given the patient's history of consuming CWD meat, the authors suggest a possible novel animal-to-human transmission of CWD. They also studied the case of one of the hunter's friends who ate venison from the same deer population. That person recently died from CJD as well. The chronology study doesn't reveal where the individuals who contracted the CJD lived and hunted, but the Center of Disease Control and Prevention says that CWD has been detected in 32 U.S. states to date. The 3 states with the largest distribution of infected deer are Kansas, Nebraska, and Wisconsin. Disease is also prevalent in Canadian deer herds. Well, it's also very prevalent here in Montana as well. Now, let me tell you, that 32 state is a BS moniker. It's in way more states than that. It says it's not in Washington state. It is in Washington state. It's in many other locations. If you eat deer and you don't have that deer tested by your state game, you're a fool. Here's why. Every state that I know of will test the deer for free. Many states demand that it be tested. And then they'll tell you rather rapidly if it has it or not. If it has it, you're a fool to eat the meat. I don't care if it's cooked or not. You're a fool. Because they're just now stating it's crossed. As I told you years ago, it will cross, it did cross. And you will come down with that disease sooner or later if you're eating bad deer meat. Now, not too long ago here in Montana, there's a statewide radio show. And they had a series of ranchers and farmers from far northern Montana that were complaining about out-of-state hunters coming into our state to hunt their animals. After that show, I sent the host of the show a note saying they shouldn't be worried about that. They need to be worried about CWD, chronic wasting disease, because it's prevalent along the northern Montana border and the Canadian border. It's coming down from Canada and it's crossing our borders. And they don't even want to address it. They don't even want to talk about it. It's insane. So, for what it's worth, folks, and this is moose, elk, deer, caribou. I mean, don't eat any of it unless it's tested. Next article, sent to me by a National Park Ranger, and I appreciate this. It says, Park Service archaeological scandal sparks no reforms. This was on the Public Employees for Environmental Responsibility page. This just went up like 5 days ago. Trade in Native American skulls and funerary pots did not trigger charges. Listen to this. This is obscene. A multi-year investigation has concluded that 2 National Park Service archaeologists committed extensive financial and ethical improprieties, but their trafficking in stolen Native American human remains did not constitute violations of law. That result creates a bad precedent which may hinder the legally required repatriation of such materials in the future, according to Public Employees for Environmental Responsibility. A whistleblower allegation filed through the U.S. Office of Special Counsel in 2021 ultimately led to an investigation conducted by the Interior Department's Office of Inspector General. The targets of the probe were two National Park Service archaeologists, Jeff Shanks and Mike Russo, who worked for the agency's Southeast Archaeological Center. While working for NPS, the two were also setting up a private archaeology business while misusing NPS resources, including letterhead. The Inspector General referred these violations to the U.S. Attorney, who declined to prosecute. NPS initially ignored internal complaints about the archaeologist's conduct and initiated proposed disciplinary action against Shanks and Russo only after the IG report, but the pair resigned before that came to fruition. The IG also substantiated that in 2017, Shanks and Russo befriended a known looter of burial mounds who offered to sell his collection of funerary pots and two Native American skulls. The two archaeologists retained a straw buyer to purchase the materials, which were then stored at an SEAC facility. For 5 years, the funerary pots were kept in cardboard boxes while students and staff handled, photographed, and researched the skulls and pots. All the while, they did not inform any federal recognized tribe that they possessed the collection, as required by the Native American Graves Protection and Repatriation Act. This is outrageous. The IG agents found 21 funerary pots still on shelves within the SEIC facility. To date, no tribe has been informed, let alone consulted about these events. Rather than contact any tribe, the skulls were given to the State Florida Bureau of Archaeological Collection for storage, where they remain today. NPS did not change SEAC management or issue any procedural changes to prevent the reoccurrence, despite adopting rules to strengthen NAGPRA implementation. Do you know who the head of the National Park Service is? It's a Native American woman. And she's not doing anything about it. By ignoring these blatant desecrations and focusing only on ethics violations, the IG made a bad situation worse, stated Pacific Pure Director Jeff Rush, noting that the IG wrongly concluded the archaeologist did not technically violate NAGPRA because it could not prove the notorious looter lacked a permit, which there was no record. The whole point of NAGPRA is to protect Native American burial mounds and graves from systematic desecration. The absence of consequences for the two archaeologists in this case, until a whistleblower stepped forward and put their career on the line, follows a pattern of lenient treatment for higher-ups within NPS, a perception reflected in dismally low morale scores in the annual Federal Employee Viewpoint Survey. This perception is also compounded by recent promotions of senior managers within NPS who had engaged in serious misconduct. As an institution, the Park Service has a deep history of being accountability-proof, added Rush, pointing to NPS whitewashing of years of tremendous cultural resource damage at Effigy Mounds National Monument by agency officials. Without the whistleblower stepping up, the outrageous conduct in this case almost certainly still would be going on. If you have watched my videos for long, what I just read to you pretty much happens every 16 months in the National Park Service. And when they say that the National Park Service, out of hundreds of agencies, has one of the lowest morale scores of any federal agency, that is why. When you become a National Park Service ranger, you're locked in for years. And that's why many of them don't leave. But then again, why waste your life on an agency that doesn't care about you and doesn't care about the protection of what they are here to protect? Does it get me angry? It gets me very angry, because I know the Native American tribes out there are getting absolutely used by the National Park Service and not protected. Yeah, I'm mad. I get really mad about it. And that story I just read to you, it didn't even make the big press. I guarantee hardly anybody's heard about it. If it wasn't for National Park Service rangers that sent that to me, I wouldn't even know. So thank you, men and women, for forwarding that. Speaking of national parks, this was an article in USA Today. Missing man in Great Smoky Mountains National Park describes near-death experience. April 18th, 2024. Lying by a riverbed, falling in and out of consciousness after losing a life-threatening amount of blood, a missing hiker in the Great Smoky Mountains National Park had what we called an out-of-body experience. I've been to this park many times, hiked all over it. Jacob Riggs, 35, of Knoxville, went for a hike to his usual camping spot on top of a mountain ridge in Tremont, Tennessee, area of the national park on Monday, April 8th. He wasn't seen again until April 10th. According to park rangers, after an initial search and rescue was initiated, a park visitor spotted him in the Tremont area at 8 a.m. April 10th and recognized him in need of medical care. Riggs, a self-described avid hiker who recently completed 72 miles of the Appalachian Trail in the Great Smokies, told the Citizen Times April 17th that he fell violently ill once he reached his campsite. As an EMT for 10 years, Riggs said he gave himself an IV with a bag of saline to replace some lost fluids, but passed out with an open IV in his arm. I'm just bleeding out unconscious for at least 8 hours apparently, because when I woke up it was dark, Riggs said, and adding that he administered the IV at around lunchtime. Riggs said he knew that there was a creek about a 15 to 20 minute walk down the mountain. But after he woke up, the trek took him the entire second day of his time in the woods, because he had walked maybe 2 steps and collapsed since I lost so much blood. Yet he said he was operating on instinct and his only focus was to get to water. I finally crawled to the water, dunked my head in there, and just spent the next night passing out sucking stream water, Riggs said. As he was laying there that night, Riggs described an experience similar to stories he's been told from people he's brought back from cardiac arrest while working in firefighting and EMS. Quote, I was very aware of what was going on, and all of a sudden I just got this overwhelming peacefulness rush over me, he said. Quote, I have a very vivid memory of seeing myself from above, just lying there. But it was like there was nothing to worry about. I was like, he's got nothing to worry about, end of quotes. After something snapped him back to consciousness, Riggs said he drank some water, underwent a final push back to the parking lot, where the park's visitor found him and brought him to an incident command post near the Townsend area, just under a mile from the Townsend entrance to the park. Over the next few days, Riggs said he was given multiple transfusions as well as IVs to replenish his fluids in the intensive care unit at Blount Memorial Hospital. He's feeling better now, he said, but offered some advice to fellow hikers. Quote, always carry your phone even though the park has bad service. It does have an SOS signal. Apple phones have an SOS. I made the mistake of not carrying my phone with me, he said. Always stay on the trail. Don't deviate from the trail, because that's exactly what I did, and that's how I find myself in trouble. It's like it was written for Missing 411. You realize how lucky this man was? First of all, I don't know many people that carry saline and IVs with him. I suppose he might have been very lucky that he carried that. And what would have happened to him if he hadn't had that? And when he said he lost a lot of blood, the IV must have fallen off. He must have bled out of that arm. Very scary. Very scary. And if he was unconscious, he wouldn't have heard searchers calling his name. Now, this next part, I've been asked 100 times in the last 2 months, Dave, where are you going to be speaking this summer? All right, here we go. May 3rd and 4th this year, Quinault Beach Resort and Casino in Ocean Shores, Washington. It's a UFO conference I'm speaking at. Now, I'm going to be talking about this and some other things about that I know about Washington and missing 411. So, Quinault Beach Resort and Casino UFO conference. If you Google that, you'll find it. Next one is July 27th. I'll be in Gatlinburg, Tennessee at the Smoky Mountain Bigfoot Conference. I will tell you, if you want to go to this, get your tickets now. Why is that? Because it'll sell out. Last time I was there, 2,300 people were in that facility. It was huge. Now, I think I can tell you this. I'm gonna be with Scott's son. And just saying that breaks me up. Scott Carpenter, his son, is going to be there. I told him that I'd be there with him the whole time. And hopefully we can talk a little bit about Scott Carpenter's work. True humanitarian, all-around great guy. And the organizers were going to invite Scott this year. So instead of Scott, it's going to be his son. And I've talked a lot to him in the last several months. And I've told him anything I can do for him, anything. If he needs support, I'll stand next to him on stage the whole time. I don't care. So you'll see what I mean about what a good guy his son is as well. And then at the end of the summer, Alaska Bigfoot Cruise, September 13th through the 20th. You get the boat in Seattle, then you go to Juneau, Sitka, Skagway, and Victoria. And I'm going to be hosting a couple of trips fishing at some of these ports. And then on there's 2 days on the ship where you're cruising all day. One of those days, I didn't do it last time, I'm going to do it this time. I'm going to make a special presentation outside the scope of my normal Bigfoot talk, which I'll be doing. Now, this one's a special one on missing people in Alaska. And that'll be a real good one. And the organizers asked if I'd be willing to do it. And I said, those days on the cruise, when you're not in a port, can get pretty long. So if there's somebody to come in and listen to me while I flap my gums, I'll do it. So, yeah, if you Google Alaska Bigfoot Cruise, it's by a company called Gather Up Events. I did it last year. And that was the cruise where Jeff Meldrum, who was the other speaker, got super sick and had to be taken off by the Coast Guard. Well, Jeff's going to be back, and I'm glad. And there's a couple other speakers that they have, but Jeff and I are the main ones. And I got to tell you, first of all, it was one of the most fun 7 days I've had in a long time. And the scenery is out of this world, gorgeous. But one of the most fun things was the organizers had set up a town hall meeting in Juneau. And they had a big room, a real big room, packed. And they advertised it in Juneau. So people from all over Alaska came to this and talked about their Bigfoot experiences. Stunning. Stunning. Now, there was no attacks, there was no murders, there wasn't even any talk of that. Just sightings. And a ton of people came up to the table Angie and I had at that event. It was just a great time. People were super nice. And I'm hosting 2 special dinners like 6-8 people can come and sit and have dinner with Angie and I, and we'll sit and talk all through dinner. I think one of them's at an Italian restaurant on the ship, and I forgot where the other one's at. But those are a lot of fun. The people, you get a good way, as I've always said, there's a book in everyone. And I don't like listening to just me. I like to listen to people. Why are they there? What's their interest? Most of these people have their own stories that are far more interesting than mine. And just going around the table and talking to everybody is absolutely fantastic. And then, of course, there's a huge cafeteria on the ship where all the meals are free once you get paid and you're on board. Cafeteria's food was really good every time. Angie and I are just sitting around. People would walk up, sit down, join us, talk. It's very casual, and it's a great way to meet people. Now, last time the ship held about 2,000 people, and 400 people on that ship were Bigfoot, part of the Bigfoot cruise. So it's not the whole ship that's the Bigfoot cruise. You got people from all different parts of the world there. So I know that there's a minimal number of seats left on that ship, cabins left on that ship. I encourage you to go. I don't get this ramped up for something unless it's great, and I had a great time last time. So I hope to see you guys there at one of these events. But thanks for being here. I hope this didn't bore you guys because I didn't bring up a missing person, but there's a lot of things I haven't talked about in a while, and I wanted to get through them. So thank you for being here. Remember, it's a kindness revolution. It doesn't cost us anything to be nice and kind to people. Let's try to be that. Paulides out.